So I'm just here today to offer you a shorter practice. I had been to the gym yesterday, and this morning I woke up and feeling um, quite heavy in my body and some muscle pain. And so I went through a short practice, maybe 25, 30 minutes, and it sure freed things up. So I'm just going to offer this practice to you guys. So I'm going to just start with a ball on the bottom of my foot. And I've used this before. It's one of my favorite tools. Now, the ball is quite small, and you can actually just use a golf ball to do the same thing. And what I'm doing is just freeing up some of the tissue and adhesions in the fascia on the bottom of my foot, especially in the arch. And you'll find little areas that are sensitive. So just going to roll around. And I wouldn't put like a 10 out of 10 pressure there, but just a nice, comfortable pressure. You could even roll the ball so it's on your heel and then a little light pressure, pushing the ball down with your heel, rolling it through the arch again, and then to the ball of your foot and roll it over to the base of the baby toe. And maybe just do a few little ankle rolls there as we switch to the other side. So you don't have to spend, 10 minutes doing this. Just enough to feel the sensations. If there's some tightness, just kind of subside. Now, while I'm here rolling, I've got a few props that would be helpful for our practice today. So I'm just going to go on to my heel as I continue talking. A spinal strip, if you have one, these are really a wonderful tool. So if you want to invest $25 to $28 in something like this, it is very, very handy. You can get them at Functional Synergy, or you could actually even, I think I've seen them on Amazon. Okay, I'm rolling that ball back now to the ball of my foot. So because I know most of you probably won't have a spinal strip, you can actually just use a blanket. I've rolled this one up narrow. So I already pre-did that, knowing the practice that we're going to do. And another blanket that will be supportive for your head, or if we get into a seated position, you might want to sit up on a blanket, as well as a strap. All right, so now you can just finish up on both of your feet. Just take a stand for a moment and just kind of notice how that feels. And then we'll make our way down onto the mat. So we'll start with the spinal strip or the narrow rolled blanket, making sure that you guys can all see me. So regardless of which one you're using, the spinal strip or the blanket, you're going to lie over it, and we're going to do it at the T-spine. So for ladies, that's where the bra strap lies. So right in that T-spine there, thoracic spine. So the loop on my spinal strip is where my head rests. Now, as I rest my head back, my chin is up. So instead of correcting that by tucking my chin, I'm actually going to correct it by getting a folded blanket and lifting or elevating my hips, and then bringing my hips back down onto the blanket. And then you can see the correction of that chin. So it's no longer lifted. And then let your feet come and land to the floor. You can bring your arms beside, or you could even place your hands on the lower part of the ribs. So just for about 3 to 4, we're going to just breathe in and out 3 or 4 times. So let the breath enter into the belly as you breathe in. That little sunbeam there. I was going to go in, close my blind to push it out, but it actually is quite nice. We don't ever want to block out the sun, I don't think. So if you're on the folded blanket version of this and it's a bit longer, and you could actually fold that blanket back, which would simulate that same kind of loop that we have with the spinal strip. So now I'm going to take my strap. I folded it a few times, and then I'm going to bring my arms up, hold onto the strap, and then just start doing smaller movements with the arm bones moving in the shoulder sockets. You can do these a little bit smaller. The main thing is that the awareness is the top of the arm bone, the humerus, where it inserts into the shoulder socket. We're just looking to have a nice refined movement of that joint. And if I bring my arms all the way overhead, that might actually elevate my ribs up, which for this particular movement is not the reason why I'm moving my arms. So I want to stay out of that range where the ribs move up. After several of those, just maybe a few reaching up and down. So you're feeling the scapula is moving on or gliding on and around your ribs. All right, so from here, just pop that off to the side. I'm going to elevate my hips up to remove the blanket. I'll just do a little roll to the side, and then I can move my spinal strip off. And then I'm just going to lie down on my back and just take a pause just to notice any changes or shifts in your body already. Okay, so now we'll just move into some twisting. One of my favorite things to do is twisting. So I'm going to turn and lie on my left side. I've got a support for my head here. Going to lie down so you can see my left arm. I'm on my left side. My left arm is straight out of the shoulder. I've got my knees bent and stacked. And then my right hand's going to just stack on top of the left. And I'm going to bring my arm up. Now my arm comes up perpendicular to the ceiling and it no longer moves. What moves now is the ribs. So now I'm opening up. Now stay in a range where your knees continue to be stacked. So if you're going back into your twist and that knee is shifting back, just redo it with the awareness that the arm no longer moves when it's perpendicular. And now the ribs move, but I want to keep my hips just nice and squared. So if I move that top knee on the bottom knee, then it's going to push me into the twist a little bit deeper, but we're losing a little bit of the effectiveness. Okay, so I would do it about 3 times. And as you go into the twist, your head does kind of follow the twist. It doesn't stay this way. Okay, and then we're going to just, after 3 on that side, we're just going to take a little pause in the center again. And then we'll shift to the other side. So it's really important that when we're doing this twisting, oh, that sun is right in my eyes there. When we're doing that twisting, that we're not moving the arm, because then we would just be doing a shoulder stretch. No, that's better. And this is the purpose of this is actually doing a twist. So we're twisting the ribs relative to the hips. And it's really helpful to do the twisting because it kind of clears up and releases any adhesions or stuckness that might be in the muscles between your hips and the ribs, as well as the fascia and tissue. And you could just be breathing nice and fluidly, softly. Okay, and we'll do 3 on this side as well. So my arm stops and then my ribs take over. That top knee is staying on the bottom knee without shifting back. That feels pretty good. Okay, great. So now we're going to come onto our back again. So all the while we kind of check in between the postures or the poses or the movements that we do, just to kind of gain an understanding of what's going on in the body. You might even feel some tension loosening up. Maybe the breath becomes easier. Maybe you feel a little bit more relaxed. Okay, so let's just move into this leg now. So we're just going to extend the right leg up and then just bring your focal point to the top of the leg bone, so your femur. And just think of that femur feeding into the socket of the hip socket or the socket of the pelvis. And then as you're rotating your leg from the internal to external rotation, because the knee and the foot are part of the chain of this leg, they move. We don't move the foot to move the top of the leg bone in the pelvis. It's the other way. Okay. So then bring that foot down or leg down, and then the left leg comes up, and we'll repeat on this side. Breathing easy. Great. Okay, and then bring the foot back down. So now I'm going to just have both of my feet on the floor and just elevate your hips up and back down. So this is just, the start of a bridge pose. So we're just going to elevate the hips up so they become a little bit higher than the ribs. Extension through the hips, lowering the hips back down. You might also notice that as you elevate the hips, that there's a responsiveness of your glutes. So it's not that we contract the glutes and then elevate the hips up. We elevate the hips up and the glutes happen to respond to that. Great. So from here, we're now going to roll to our side and we'll come to all fours. And we're going to go back to doing a little bit of arm movement in the shoulders. So I'm going to put myself in a position where I can see what I'm doing. So I've stacked some blocks at the top of the mat. Now they could be at this height or the lower height. So you choose. I'm going to bring my hands onto the blocks and just start to shift the hips back. But again, the awareness is that I'm moving now the shoulder sockets on the arm bones. So when we were lying down and we were doing the arms overhead, we're moving the arm bones in the shoulders. But now we're moving the shoulders on the arm bones, if that makes sense. So similar, but different. Okay, I'm going to get you guys to continue that a few more times. And I actually am going to adjust my blinds here. I actually can see the screen. There we go, that's better. And then from here, we're going to take the blocks and stack them higher, bring my hands on the higher part of the blocks now. I'm going to step my left leg forward. And from here, the right knee continues on the mat. I'm just going to shift my hips forward and back. Okay. And you can go a little bit. So there's always this kind of like talk about whether the knee stacks over the foot or if it goes a little bit more forward. But think about walking upstairs. When you walk upstairs, your knee actually does go forward of your toes. So it's not really a compromised position by going a little bit more forward of that ankle. All right, great. So just, 3 to 6 on one side. Let's pull that leg back and bring the right leg forward. And then we'll repeat the same on this side. All right, great. So from here, we're going to take a stand, so easy with the blocks, and then we will come up to a standing position. I'm just going to move my setup around a little bit. All right, so I want to integrate a little bit of breath on movement or movement on breath. So we'll come into standing and have your feet at about hip distance apart. And you could actually even notice on the bottoms of your feet where you're noticing where the pressure points are. Where do you notice it more on the heel, the ball of the foot, the base of the baby toe, on the toes? Just kind of notice where you just naturally land on your feet as you come to standing. So from here, we're going to breathe the arms up and then back down. So same principle here as you're moving the arms up, that we stay in a range where you're not overly pulling the ribs up. Now, what happens when you pull the ribs up is that you start to back bend. And really right now, we're just working with arm movement and breath. Let's do it 3 more times. All right, so now you can reposition those feet. Now, if your feet are a little bit closer together, be sure to have them at least hip distance apart. And now we're going to do almost a similar movement, but moving into chair. So I'm going to inhale, sink the hips as the arms sweep overhead. And exhale, come up. We're going to do that 4 more times. So I'll do a side view for you as well. So inhaling, and then exhale and power back up again. Now I can't remember if that's 2 or 3. So we'll do 3 more. Never was a very good counter. And then all the way back up. And then we'll take that right leg back and turn to the side. So you're in a wide leg position. And then we're going to do a side bend. So I'm just going to take my left leg and just move it in the hip socket. So externally rotate it. And you could even internally rotate this back leg a little bit if you like. So from here, you come side bend to the left. And then I'm going to place that hand, just kind of like hang it down. And then we're going to go into just a side bend. So if we're actually thinking about that, we're wanting to create some space in the ribs. So it's not really a shoulder stretch. So just kind of be conscious or aware that that right shoulder blade is just nicely nestled in there on your ribs. And then it's almost like you're just getting the arm out of the way. So you freed up some space to breathe into the right lung and get some space between the ribs. Let's take another 2 breaths. Could even have a little bit of a twist in action at the navel, opening or spiraling up towards the ceiling. Okay, so I'm just going to lower the arm down, and then I'm going to bring myself back up to a standing position and maybe even gather the legs in a little bit closer together. Doing that remembrance or coming back to what I'm feeling, the sensations, and noticing shifts in your breath, in how your physical body's feeling, how you're thinking. So it's just like internalizing and being very aware of what's going on in your body. So the signs that we have in our body are very apparent. It's whether we're listening to what our body is telling us. So just be that awareness. Okay, so I'm going to turn that leg bone. Okay, and I've got a straight leg because we're doing triangle. I can internalize that leg at the back if I need to. And then from here, I'm going to side bend again. Okay, so there could be a little bit of rotation here. Maybe there's a little bit of internal rotation of the hip bone, external rotation here at the navel. Then just let that hand hang down. And then from here, I'm reaching the arm across. Now again, you can just allow that scapula to sort of sit and nestle nicely on the ribs because you're really just getting the arm out of the way so you've got access to breathing into the left ribs. So it can be bowing the ribs, but not really overly stretching the shoulder. Okay, and then on your next exhale, we'll bring the arm back to the hip and then come out of the side bend. Turning your feet or your legs again, coming back into standing. And from here, I'm going to have you guys hinge at the hips, coming forward. Now you can soften at the knees a little bit, and you could even have blocks as your hands come down to the floor. I don't want you overly rounding your back. Now breathe in and come up to that halfway point. So I've got a nice extension through my spine. My head is just an extension out of the spine. And now I'm going to forward fold again. Maybe at the last minute, the upper back rounds a little bit. And now I'm going to come back up to that halfway point and just allow the arms to hang and then work a little bit in that protraction, which is shoulder blades reaching down, and retraction, the shoulder blades coming toward each other. So just noticing that movement that you have of the scapulas as they move or glide around the ribs. Okay, and then you can just bring your hands to the backs of the legs and soften at the knees. And we'll come all the way back up to a standing position. And legs are wide. And then we're going to forward fold again with a wide stance. And go this way. It might be easier for you to see what I'm doing. And then we're going to come into a twist. So I'm going to come to that forward fold position. Now, if your hand very comfortably goes to the floor, then you could for sure do that. Or you can put a block or a folded blanket, and that's going to enable you to have a little bit more extension or space in the vertebrae. So I'm going to begin with my left hand right underneath my face in the middle, and then I'm going to bring my right hand onto the sacrum. So as I breathe in, I want to create the space in the vertebrae. And then as I exhale, I'm going to keep my hips level and I'm going to rotate open to the right. So if you like back off a little bit, come out, and then you can do it again. And your obliques will take you to a point where they're basically going to stop the movement. So take a breath there. And then if there's an invite, then you could maybe draw the right shoulder blade into retraction. And you might notice that you get a little bit of a deeper twist. If your neck is feeling stressed out there, just lower or look down toward your hand and take the pressure off the neck. The other thing that you might explore is bringing that right arm up to the ceiling. So now my shoulders are stacked and maybe increasing that space in the twist. Now we're going to come back to the center. Hands right underneath the shoulders just to take a breath to allow the effects of the twist. I'm going to just change sides so that I'm looking toward the camera. And I'm going to forward fold again. And I'm going to now have my right hand under my face in the center. Now remember, I'm keeping my hips level. My left hand comes to the sacrum. I'm going to take an inhale. So on that inhale, I feel that I'm lengthening through the spine. And then on the exhale, I'm rotating to the left. Maybe come out of the twist, inhale again, and then exhale, moving into the twist again. So now to further increase the twist, if it's something that you want to do, if you're there and it's like, no, that's enough, that's fine. Listen to your body, but you can explore. Just take these movements of exploring the body. So now I can bring the arm up if I like. Keep the hand, top of the hand on the sacrum, and you can start to play around with that retraction of the scapula, the left scapula on the ribs. Getting a nice, decent twist for yourself, and then bring yourself back to that center point and just allow the effects of that twist to just really vibrate through your body as you center yourself in a wide leg forward fold. Now I'm going to bring my hands to the backs of my legs, and I'm going to come all the way back up. I'm going to even bring my arms up overhead as I breathe in and exhale the arms down. Okay, so I'm going to gather my feet back at the center and then take a little pause here. So again, just noticing the effects of the movements that we're doing. All right, great. So what we'll do is now we're going to land back on our mat and we're going to take a twist now. We've done a couple with the ribs staying quiet. The hips staying quiet and the ribs moving. So now what we're going to do is we're going to keep the ribs quiet and the hips will move. Hope I said that right. All right, so let's lie down on our back. And even take just a brief little pause here, maybe 1 or 2 breaths. So again, noticing any shifts or changes that you're feeling, sensations in the body. All right, so one of my favorite movements for the shifting of the hips is to, if my feet are here closer to the buttocks, just walk them away from the buttocks just a little bit, taking the hips at that 90-degree angle. I'm going to just bring my right leg up, and that's sort of that leg movement we did just at the beginning of the session. I'm going to externally rotate the leg bone, and then I'm going to place my right foot on the left leg, sort of wherever it lands, really. Don't pull it down to the center because it's got no that has nothing to do with the effect of what we're going to do with the hips moving. So now you can have your arms either, sort of closer toward the hips or higher up so they're in line with the shoulders. Any of those positions in between is fine. The main thing is as we twist or rotate our hips, that we want to keep the shoulder blades on the floor. So I've dropped my knees over to the right, and now I'm bringing them over to the left. But my main focal point here, well, a couple of things really. You're feeling your hips rotate as your shoulder girdle remains quiet and steady on the floor. So if you were dropping your knees all the way to the floor and you were feeling pulling or sensation in your front deltoid in the shoulder here, that just go in a range where you actually don't feel that pulling, because we're really just kind of moving the hips relative to the ribs, but it's not a shoulder stretch. I always find that really the way to look at these things, because sometimes people are like, oh, well, I kind of like that stretch, but we can find other things to do to stretch the shoulder. And this is not one of them. This is hip movement relative to ribs. Now we'll drop the knees over toward the right side. Use the oblique muscles. They'll stop you from gravity pulling the legs all the way to the floor. And take a breath. Then we'll go to the other side. So the same thing. The oblique muscles will respond to gravity as it tries to pull the legs to the floor, and then take a breath. Now, the other thing to keep note of as you're in the holding or the static version of the pose is to make sure that you're not grimacing through your jaw or gripping or anything like that through the facial muscles or your neck or your shoulders. Those are all compensation patterns. So now let's come back up to the center point. Bring your feet back to the floor. Now, if you'd like to do just a gentle hip lift here, just to make sure the spine is nice and aligned again, that'd be great. And then if your feet have come closer to the buttocks and you want to move them away, get in that less than 90 degrees at the hips. Now I'm going to bring that left leg up, and you can do a few of the rotations of that leg bone in the pelvis. Externally rotate and then place the left foot on the right leg. And then whenever you're ready, you can start to drop the knees over to one side and over to the other side. So all the while, you're just in your body. Your awareness is just noticing the hips moving, noticing that your shoulders are going to remain on the floor, and adjusting so that the movement is within your optimal range. The breath is steady and even, and the facial muscles are just releasing to gravity's pull. Your jaw is not tight, it's just nice and soft. Eyes are soft. And then the next time we move into the twist, let's pause there. Just one or two breath pause, and then over to the other side, and then 2 or so breaths on that side. All right, so then coming back to that center. So from here, we're going to bring that foot back to the floor. maybe reposition. And then from here, just elevate the hips up. I always like to do something to, if we've done kind of one side and the other, something asymmetrical, something symmetrical to balance this out. Okay, so it's a shorter practice, so probably don't need a huge shavasana, but you could just stretch out your legs momentarily. Pause here. Maybe you bring the awareness to the breath at the belly, or you can do a body scan, feeling from the bottoms of the foot as you breathe upwards to the crown, and then awareness then back from the crown down to the bottoms of the feet. Okay, and then you choose how long you stay in your relaxation position. If you're ready to carry on with your day, then you can do that too. So hopefully this is a great little thing for freeing up some tissues in the body. It would also be a wonderful little way to warm up for a weight training session or going for a run, or even a nice little practice before bed. So you choose what you use it for. It never hurts to do a little bit of body movement. We'll see you at the next clip.